Class is in session. You're listening to Shit Shooting 101. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Kiki is back in the classroom with us. Kiki, say hello to the fine folks out there in podcast land.
Hello, Josh. Hello, podcast land. It's great to be back.
Hello, hello. Joining us today, all the way from Denmark, host of Age of Truth TV, a TV network and online community employing the arts of communication to uncover hidden agendas, ignored, avoided, and buried realities, as well as otherworldly phenomena. Here to tap our eardrums to the tempo of truth, tickle our brains with the feathers of thought, and awaken the pineal gland with a lantern of eye-opening insight, a brother in arms on the front lines of forbidden knowledge, it's Lucas Alexander. Lucas, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and how poetic that was. It was amazing. Thank you for that introduction.
Oh, yeah. Yay, Josh, yeah.
The boy's a poet, and he knows it. No, I'm joking.
Love being creative, huh?
So, out there in Denmark, let's just get started by asking you, what is the scene there? What is Denmark looking like in the COVIDian era?
Well, we had a very, very difficult time, like everywhere else on the planet. But since the end of January, there are no restrictions, no masks, nothing. Suddenly, they lifted everything, and we are now kind of only focusing on the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, like everywhere else. So it's a strange thing because we were locked down for a long time and we had a very difficult situation here. And this population is a very comfortable population here in Denmark. So they will go along with practically anything. And I guess because I don't know what we can say on this show, but because most of the population, the majority complied, then I guess like always, Denmark is a testing ground. You know, we are a very small population, between 5 and 6 million in the entire country.
So small. Wow.
So small, and it's we have, let's say, a very balanced, they call it, community. So we don't have really a lot of poor people and a lot of really rich people. It's a testing ground to see what will work in the rest of the world.
Are you having a lot of immigration there, as like in Sweden?
Absolutely. Sweden and Denmark are brothers, totally. I mean, they usually test everything in Sweden first and then in Denmark. So that's
okay.
Yes, we do have a lot of that, and it's been a problem for some people, but it's way worse in other countries and in parts of America where you guys are. Yeah.
Well, it sounds a lot like what has went down in Ohio, where we went from lockdowns to the strict mask mandates and all that. And now with the flip of a switch, like you said, it's just focus on Ukraine, and the mask mandates have been lifted, which makes me dreadful that it just means that phase 1 is complete, on to the next level.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. We've known it for a long time. We've been reporting on this for, 11 years now on Age of Truth TV. And I'm sad to say that everything we talked about came true. I wish I could go out and tell people, wow, it never happened.
Right.
It wasn't the truth. It didn't come to pass. But sadly, just, in 2 years, things changed. It became way worse than we even imagined. I mean, they rolled it out fast, didn't they?
And when you talk about the fact that you've been dealing with this for a while, are you talking about like the Club of Rome, Club of Budapest Declaration? What is it? The World
Economic Forum?
No, it's World. I'll look it up, but it's that. The whole idea to smash the community, smash the nation, smash the family. You did a sequence of interviews.
Well,
with
it's
Claire
what they
Edwards.
call UN Agenda 21, basically.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, and UN Agenda 2030, that's their first stop, and then they go to UN 2050. And we are well into, UN 21 is not the year 2021, even though they rolled out everything massively there, but it's for the 21st century. So it's the whole century. This century is about creating and implementing the New World Order. And that's where we've been going for a long time, even though the New World Order has been a totalitarian regime for many decades, actually.
Is it the World Shift Declaration? It's Irving Laszlo?
Irvin Laszlo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was in the Club of Budapest, which is it's part of the Club of Rome, obviously, which was created in 1968.
Okay, and it was interesting because when Claire had presented it, she hadn't brought up she hadn't made the connection directly to the UN at that point. But you're saying that it is definitely UN, World Economic Forum. They're all colluding.
It's so interesting how people that work in the UN and I guess everywhere in those big institutions, they're compartmentalized. They don't know what else is going on at the top. So it takes a lot of research, and then boom, you understand everything. I mean,
that's how they get away with all of it. Yeah,
that is how they get away with everything. It's like all politicians are not bad. They actually do believe in the whole thing, but they don't understand the full picture.
So, I have a lot of different topics I want to get to, so I want to move along here. Lucas, you've interviewed multiple MKUltra victims, as well as having studied in your own personal research, mind control, monarch programming, and the like. What are some of the overlapping details you've noticed in the stories and descriptions of mind control victims? For example, what techniques, abuses, side effects, etc. seem to be reflected in most, if not all, cases?
Well, that's a large topic. When you study MKUltra, you will understand that and mind control in general. It's the most important topic we can actually study when we go into the world of truth research and conspiracy research, because it's part of connecting the dot to all fields here. Had it not been for mind control and collective mind control, then the world would not have been how it is. You know, this collective amnesia, and people are totally asleep. I mean, it's because of those frequencies that they're beaming from all sides. And when we talk about these mind controlled victims, it was part of the whole CIA project, Project MKUltra and MK Delta and Mockingbird and all of those things after Operation Paperclip, when the Nazis came over, and they also did, lots of tests on people for mind control purposes in the concentration camps. And we know about Joseph Mengele, of course, who did the trauma-based mind control. And I guess you've heard about both Kathy O'Brien and Jay Parker, Bryce Taylor, many people that has come out and talked about this, that were part of these satanic rituals, maybe part of these Illuminati bloodline families as a child, brought up being compartmentalized in the mind to create alters, different personalities. One personality would not know what another personality would do or would be able to do. Actually, they create enhanced sensory perception and senses in general, and it's extraordinary, that technique that they use. And at that time, they did it through trauma and complete violation of anything humane, and what children has gone through during those experiments are horrendous. And they of course have used drugs, LSD, and brutality, I guess you could say, with beatings and sensory deprivation, sleep deprivation, waterboarding, and many other things that they have done. It's so horrendous. I mean, it's a huge topic, but a very, very important one. And I feel it's so important that it comes to the surface. And more people are coming out now talking about this and telling their stories about how they were part of this these satanic circles and bloodline families with celebrities and royalty. And, I guess, David Icke has been talking about it for a long time. And he did this interesting interview with Arizona Wilder, was her name. I think her real name was Jennifer Green or something, or Jennifer Keeley. And she was called Arizona Wilder. And if we are to believe what she's talking about and what she's telling us, then it's really, really gruesome, isn't it?
That's one of the difficulties with these mind control victims. It's impossible to know whether to believe their story or not, because it can cause these schizophrenic breaks and it can cause these delusions and hallucinations. And so you don't know if that's caused from some underlying neurological thing or another, or if they're actually telling the truth. So I guess you have to look for these patterns amongst each victim who are corroborating one another's stories.
Yes, exactly. That's always what you have to do. It's what you have to do with everything, I guess. It's what I really learned in those 11 years that I've been doing Age of Truth, but also in the 17 years I've been awake. I mean, it's you always have to be discerning and be skeptical and critical, but always with an open mind and an open heart towards that. I guess everything is possible. And the whole thing is impossible, but it really isn't, obviously. The world is so different from what we are led to believe. And mind control is, I think, the most important topic.
Right.
And so we're sort of all being MK Ultra, wouldn't you say?
Well, that's a special operation, it's a special project. But I guess, collective mind control is happening every day. Through the media, the educational system, through, I guess, just, in your everyday life, people are doing it to each other without knowing it, because they are repeating what they've been told, what they are led to believe, what we've come to understand, because we've been told by repeaters and not by reporters. So it's all about repetition, and that is mind control, and trauma through the TV news is trauma. All of that is trauma-based, trauma-inducing in a way,
Mm-hmm.
And we have to fear we have to work hard for small money. And, it's a strange matrix that we're living in. And it's almost like, can this be real? Well, maybe it isn't real. Maybe it is a very sophisticated computer game, a holographic illusion, which is what I've come to understand. So it depends on how you play the game. And if you tap in, if you allow fear to consume your whole being and you're on a soul frequency level as well, then you can be totally controlled. And that's what is happening. And that's why that these new world order architects, the Illuminati, call them what you want, the cult. That's why they have been so successful for centuries, actually.
And one of the things of MK Ultra is this splintering of personalities. It's this dissociative identity disorder that they're implanting in these people, what used to be called multiple personalities.
Right.
They're splintering the personalities, and you see this in the trends of the ethos with the pronouns, and you can identify as anything you want to identify as. And then the masking is the de-individualizing, so that they can implant into you whatever personality they want into you. And then these ritualistic customs, these satanic ritualistic customs of the standing 6 feet apart and disinfection rituals. It's just all so cult brainwashing, as well as the MK Ultra.
Absolutely. It's all done by these Luciferian, Sabbatean, Frankist, Satanists, and pedophiles and mind controllers in general, because they are magicians of the occult. And they use gematria, numerology, witchcraft, and blood sacrifices. And some are possibly possessed by archons, these archontic forces, demons. And some of them are maybe even, as we've talked about a lot on the show, alien beings taking form as human beings. So, I mean, this goes way beyond something that the ordinary person can understand. But I also think because they have such advanced technology that we've also not been told about, and the deep state military factions of the government have this technique. And I also think that they can beam these frequencies through the ether or the air or whatever, like they do with 5G or the other Gs, and everything else that is not visible to the naked eye.
Well, the idea perhaps that these frequencies carry these entities, would you say?
These mind control waves. I mean, it's like this voice to skull, God, what is it called? Voice to skull technique. But probably on a much larger and more expanded scale than what they did during the war there in Iraq. I think they used this voice to skull technique. But I mean, those frequencies, they can carry all of that. That's what they're doing at CERN in Switzerland as well. So, and if these frequencies can reach your frequency, because we are operating, we are functioning, we are only alive because we manifest. We are energy frequencies and vibrations, like Tesla said, and atoms of no solidity. So it's only when you see it from a certain perspective, point of view, you go away from the core that everything can manifest. And if your frequency level can be reached, so to speak, if you've not fallen through the rabbit hole, if you've not been waking up, been awakened by what is going on in this world and understand what is happening, then maybe you can be easily controlled, the easily suggestible, it's called as well. I guess it's a frequency. They can work with that.
I believe what you were talking about in Iraq was where they put these auditory hallucinations into the Iraqi soldiers' minds, where they heard Allah telling them to put their weapons down. Is that what you're referring to?
I guess so. Yeah, I think it was called Voice to God.
I can't remember what it was called.
It escapes me what it's called, but something like that. We've been talking about that as well in the show, but there's a lot to remember.
I would just like to take my listeners to the side here for a moment. When we start delving into MK Ultra, it's very difficult to relay the information to the general public who has been I can't even read my own writing, generationally programmed to trust their government, and that's without even diving into the depths of the Illuminati, Satanism, and even the globalist world order that comes as a package deal. So if any listeners out there who are averse to this type of information are yet listening, I thank you for your ears, and I ask that you hang in there with an open mind and a willingness towards further research. With that being addressed, you've had the amazing privilege of interviewing the late, great Jordan Maxwell, Lucas, and are releasing a tribute series to honor his one-of-a-kind legacy. Looking at the most grand conspiracy ever perpetrated upon the minds of man, we have to look at religion. Having learned from the great and honorable Maxwell, how do you see the high priests of the ancient mystery schools as it pertains to the orchestration of the world stage of today?
Well, I think Jordan Maxwell, who is greatly missed now, of course, he was the perfect man to explain all of that. And I'm so thrilled that we've done our amazing show with him. There's such a library of all of his work. I mean, everything that these great thinkers did in the past, he has put all of that work together. And we are part of that world today because I think they hijacked that whole the Luciferian, Sabbatean, Frankist, Satanists infiltrated the whole game here. And of course, it's all about esoteric knowledge and not about religion. It's about true spirituality and not about the occult. It's understanding how to master the energy and to balance the energy between us all, human to human, animals, countries, and everything. But I don't actually know if I even understood your question or if I answered it.
Oh, no, that's all right. I think I phrased it in a very overly complex way.
Yeah.
I guess my question, because there's a lot of people when we who are interested in these type of topics, the conspiracy topics, who are very, they're zealots. They're very overly religious. Well, I shouldn't say overly religious. I mean, they can be very they can be very dogmatic and will not listen to anything outside of their book or their principles that a preacher, priest, or what have you crammed into their brains. And so if they're listening, I'm not attacking you right now. I don't want to divorce you from your beliefs at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I want you to consider the fact that maybe those people that have been telling you what to think your entire lives, maybe that's the grand conspiracy that you're overlooking. You're looking at all the other conspiracies that the government is doing, etc., but you're not looking at the people in your own community and your own churches, how they have influenced your mind. And so that's where my question was built upon, was this idea of religion being the main conspirator of all time.
It is. It is, absolutely. You can say it very clearly and briefly. It is. Well, to my mind, it is. It's the oldest, let's say, control game, because it is kind of a game, isn't it? To have many different religions and have many different people from different countries to believe whatever they believe, and then in that part of the world they believe in that religion. And how many religions are there? Many. And there are even like 250 or 300 ways to interpret and use or believe in Christianity alone. I mean, what's the real way to do it? There are no real way. It's all about, it's mind control. It's the same way. I mean, and then they put a lot of spiritual good stuff in there as well. And then, it works. Then people will believe it, but it's been used for control. We know this, and it's still being used for control. It's the oldest control game, I think.
Yeah, the original.
It's not about having a clear mind.
So then what do you think about this move towards the one world global religion? And where are they centering it now? They built a large facility.
Yeah. What do I think about it? Well, it's
satanic. What do you think of that?
It's vile. It's outrageous. It's unbelievable. Can you imagine that we're living in this world right now? I mean, it is a fascinating time to be alive. And I do think that there's a reason why we are here, all of us who are doing this work. And I think there is a gift in it as well. And there's a message. And we have to use our gift and our talent for speaking out or informing people the best way we can. But I also, of course, think it's it's not easy to wake up to these things, and when I started, when I woke up, so to speak, that was in 2005, and that's a long time ago. And YouTube and the internet in itself was very new. We didn't have much access to information. And, I was quite alone in it for quite a while, and I had to really search for groups and people who, like Jordan Maxwell, already had been an inspiration and who had done all of this work for so many years, but we didn't have access to it because we didn't know where to find it. And once you take a step into that world of understanding that everything you thought you knew It's not like how it is. Everything just fell to pieces in a way, and you couldn't really talk to people about it. You still can't, but of course now there's been a mass awakening. In all those years, I've have known about these things and researched all of this, read so many books, met so many interesting people. I've seen a mass awakening, truly. And so it's also wonderful. We need to wake up, but it takes a long time, understandably. And we are operating on different frequencies, all of us. We're not on the same. It's like you live in a skyscraper, let's say, and somebody is on the 10th floor on the 82nd floor, and some is on the second floor. You're not on the same level in terms of understanding. That doesn't mean that other people are less or some people are more, but it's just we are on different frequency levels. So it's an interesting time to be alive. It's a difficult time. This will go down in the history books, unless they will be erased like everything else, if this horrible great reset is going to happen. On the other hand, change in the world is also important in a way. I don't like the word reset, but let's say resetting the old stuck paradigm with an entire world under severe and collective mind control. We need to do that. We need to do that in a spiritual sense so that people can wake up from everything they thought they should do and how the world is functioning. But of course, they will do this through an economic reset and more control. And they are really pushing it at the moment because there's a mass awakening happening in, let's say, even astrologically, you can see it. That this is supposed to happen in a way, but not by these vile, evil magicians. That we don't want it in that way, but we want to change the structure, the nature of the old paradigm.
Well, I think they're trying to obscure that natural kind of confluence of all the different celestial alignments and, light frequency upgrades, would you say?
They're hijacking it.
Hijacking it, definitely. Like they've hijacked everything. Like you just said before about religion, that is such a control weapon in a way, on the mind. That doesn't mean you couldn't have something, praying is a beautiful thing. Like meditation, you can do it in a different way. It's like law of attraction. It's a scientific, it's also about frequencies beaming from you in order for something to manifest. So, but if you give your power away to something greater because you're not that great, but something else is above you, then you're still buying into the hierarchy structure, the whole, that like something is bigger than you. We are part of the entire whole. WHOLE.
Right. So once upon a time, I believed that the New World Order could not come to fruition simply because I couldn't envision the elitist egos of the world leaders coming together without clashing and destroying one another in efforts to become the one ruler of all. Yet here we are, all nations in lockstep. So my question is, who do you believe is truly running the entire operation? Is it Illuminati bloodlines, extraterrestrials, AI, extraterrestrial AI, perchance?
I think it's a mixture of all of it. I think it's well, you can't say it's one thing without talking about the other. Everything is connected. And like the rest of what we're being told with these Hegelian dialectic maneuvers, divide and conquer, we must understand that everything is part of the whole thing. Nothing is separated from each other. I also believe that possibly there is an AI superbrain far greater than anything man-made or Elon Musk or smart grid or that whole thing, but more something that maybe is more likely to be closer to source.
So you mean like an Akashic record?
Kind of, in a way. I mean, but a super brain simulation, if this is a sophisticated holographic illusion within a matrix in a matrix maybe, and we are still maybe enclosed in this very little box in the universe here, and being held captured maybe by these frequencies, whether it's from the rings of Saturn or something else. I do believe that's my understanding from having spoken to so many movers and shakers and researchers and authors into this esoteric field, that this AI super brain is probably way beyond something we can imagine. And maybe we are part of this holographic illusion, this computer game steering our avatar from another level or another dimension.
Well, that may be what they're trying to lead us to believe, that we're within a simulation, so we'll more easily and more readily accept what they're trying to put onto us with the metaverse. I'm going to ask a question that's pretty childish, but sometimes the childish wondering is at the core of things. When I think about the simulation, us living in a simulation, I ask the question, then why do I have to sleep? Why does my body have to power down and then go to this other simulation, the dream world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question. I'd like to ask that question as well. I don't have an answer to it, but I guess while we manifest in a physical form where we can feel things through our five senses on this three-dimensional plane where we can build and live and feel things and connect with other people physically and feel something when we touch each other, then I guess it's like a machine that you build, and a sofa. You cannot have the same sofa all your life. I mean, eventually it will be worn down and old and dirty. I guess we have to recreate, rejuvenate. We have to, sleep in order. That is to recharge the batteries. Also physically, it's like a rebirth every night. That's why sleep deprivation is one of the worst forms of torture. You can, and they use that, of course, with these mind control techniques. And many targeted individuals are coming out talking about saying that they are being prevented from sleeping at night. And they can also maybe induce put some frequencies out there that can cause sleep apnea and other things, I've even tried a little bit of that. So it's kind of a very difficult situation. One of the most important things are sleep. And if we truly understand it, I've been working with groups about lucid dreaming. That is where you can steer your own avatar in a way to a different frequency or maybe a different dimension. Who knows?
Yeah, and I always find
this is a process of allowing us into the different layers of the morphogenetic fields, which are the cosmic interface. Would you say? It reminds me of Rupert Sheldrake, and it's also speaking to the Akashic fields, the records, where we need to learn to travel within these different dimensions.
Yes, it's very important, and to learn it if you can. But I think it has to do with losing a little bit of control over yourself in an organized way, if you know what I mean. If you are a control freak, I mean, then it could be a little bit difficult. So maybe that's our biggest assignment here. I think that the most important thing is to, first of all, of course, stand in your own truth and be true to yourself and always work on yourself, not in a self-centered kind of way, but in a way where you can become better and better, also to lose these illusions about yourself that we all have. But it's a prison. It's still a prison in our minds. Everything is in the mind anyway. And I think it will make us better people also to our loved ones and people around us if we could, become way more aware about our own, let's say, abilities, where to go, lose a little bit of control, the illusion of the ego, the self, the I. So I think to go very deep within is the most important thing.
If I may argue against my original point that I made myself, esoterically speaking, when you look at the physical state, that is the illusion. So I guess you would look at that as the matrix because, there is no concrete form to it. As you said, the couch breaks down. My cellular structure breaks down. It all breaks down in the end. We look at our lives as being reality because it's what we return to every morning when we wake up. But in reality, at the end, what you always return to is the spiritual form. So esoterically, the spirit is real. And this form is the reflection in Alice's mirror.
The temporary vehicle, and we play a part for a while, and we have to make the best of it and be as good at it, as good a human as we can be towards others and to ourselves in order to understand what is going on. And to be, maybe an inspiration also, not in an egotistical way, but in a loving way. It's all about love, really. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it really is the frequency of love. I'm not talking about the love between two people. That's also wonderful. But I mean, that frequency of love that we don't really truly understand, because that is what they're keeping from us. Our understanding of that, the feeling of that, being on that frequency.
So they're attempting to lock us into the materialism, the material world, where they're also where we are experiencing the lifting of veils right now, and then they're like creating this sort of gamed destination into the super computer materialist globalist
prison.
Yeah. Certainly.
Yeah, and therefore we all that. I think there is one key word that I always use, and I think it's an important one, a simple one but an important one, and that's clarity. I think if we really work on that all the time, also when we speak to people, clarity, be clear, be understandable, stand in your truth and see the truth. Also, when somebody is very good at telling you something and you believe it, I've been used to, I've interviewed so many people, and I've been in front of so many different energies, and good and bad and interesting and fascinating, but they all have their own individual truth. And what I think is maybe surprising, or maybe even, extraordinary, is how many of them have the truth, and they can present the truth instead of just their truth. And it's always been our main mission at Age of Truth TV, doing this in our way, not to be to talk too much about what we feel or how we see the world, but to be open to the whole thing. And then you can put the puzzle pieces together, because I don't think there's just one truth, but there are many pieces in the puzzle, and everybody plays a major part. And we want to be open and an open platform to allow all kinds of thinkers. And, sometimes some people, some of the viewers say, how could you have this person on when last week you had that one on? He said the opposite, and that was the truth. Oh, really? So that is the truth, or what? I mean, that I think is also an important point to make. And it always brings me back to focusing on clarity. Use your intuition. Use your abilities to go within to see what resonates with you. And that's the best approach. And be always open-minded, right?
Right. Speaking of one of those energies you've been sat before and interviewed, and you mentioned his name before, David Icke is a very interesting and intriguing yet difficult character to wrap my head around. Regardless, I feel the whole reptilian theory is unfairly pinned upon him as if he is the originator of this material, completely discounting thousands of years of historical tales regarding an intelligent reptilian species amongst us. Having had a conversation with Icke, and in your studies on the subject, what conclusions, if any, have you arrived at on the reptilian conspiracy?
It's a very important topic. And I've been speaking to David Icke about it several times, and it's an important one. But it's almost like everybody, as you just said, everybody is always talking about the reptilians and the shapeshifters when they mention David Icke, which is far from the truth. I mean, do your research. Know what the man is talking about. There is a reason why he's on the stage presenting for 11 hours sometimes. He's putting all of the dots together. He puts all the puzzle pieces together, and I will actually say that he's probably the best one to put all of them together, because he's a good presenter. He's fun. He doesn't take himself too seriously. And I haven't really seen or experienced that he has said something that wasn't that wasn't true or didn't come to pass. But in the topic and the subject of reptilians and alien reptilian shapeshifters, he is just one out of many, if not most of them. I'm talking about the different researchers in this field. They all talk, or most of them talk about reptilians. So he's just one of them. He's just the most famous one. But I mean, so many people talk about it. It's in the history books. It's written in code. It's all over. There's symbolism, reptilian symbolism, many places, and he's putting all of those dots together. But does that mean that I have seen a reptilian? And does that mean that I have seen a shapeshifter? I mean, somebody shifting from a reptilian? Probably not. And most people haven't. But there are people who have seen that. And I listen to that with an open mind. And I ask critical questions I did to David Icke. I've done to many people. But there are so many things and let's say many pieces in that big puzzle that is leading us in that direction. So it could very well be true. I have once seen something that I would say was a very grim and horrifying looking sort of creature that manifested and then kind of disappeared. But that's a long story, but it's not something I really have spoken so much about publicly.
In Denmark? In Denmark you had this experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it was. And it was during the time when it was just before I started doing Age of Truth TV, which is interesting. For me, it was like a warning, but also a spiritual awakening in a way, saying, do you want to go down this path or don't you? Because I'm a singer and an actor and, a performance artist and a producer, and I've done a lot of things in that world. So to go down that road is, not exactly the best career choice you can make. But if it is if it is a calling, if it is part of your life path, then there's no choice. You have to go down that road. And was it intimidating what I saw for that moment? Very, very intimidating. The most horrible thing I think I've seen for that moment. And then, but I kind of attacked it, or let's say I didn't, some people would, just run away or be totally shaken, but I kind of, went into combat mode, and it strengthened me in a way, I feel. That's the best way I can describe it. But it was, like an illusion for a moment, what I saw there.
So what you saw, what do you believe that it was flesh and blood, interdimensional, spiritual, a mental manifestation? How do you perceive it?
I believe, or I feel, having thought about it a lot, of course, that it was interdimensional. And could manifest possibly in a holographic way. I mean, it must be, since it disappeared when I went against it. I don't even have that. I didn't think I would be that, let's say, bold or brave, but I was. So I kind of went just like raw against whatever I saw there. It was kind of dark, but it was very terrifying. But I thought, no, nothing is going to come in, I think, I've never been, somebody who has been corruptible, also in the business that I was in terms of music and showbiz. There are people that are, corruptible people and non-corruptible people. And it's always about career choices and money. If you give enough money to people, they'll do practically anything, right? But, it's always been about integrity and strength for me. I've always been different from the norm, I guess. I don't know. I was unusual as a child as well, I've had these psychic abilities. And then I suppressed it for a while, but when I grew up, because it was too much information and energy, and then eventually, you cannot and should not suppress that. And then I opened up to it, and I guess I was at that crossroad when I woke up to all of these things and understood that the world I was living in was not anything like what I was brought up to believe. And then, I saw that for a moment, I don't know for how long. I don't know for how long, time stood still for me for that moment. So I don't know. It's the closest thing to anything really strange, otherworldly that I have ever seen. I've seen a couple of people's eyes changing. That I have seen a few times.
In real life?
In real life, yeah. Turning dark, black. And then maybe I imagined once I saw something like a slit or something like that. Mostly black. A couple of times. But
and when you were confronted with this, were you standing in yourself as a creator, as somebody who could create a different outcome from that encounter?
That's a great question. And I love your approach to that, because maybe that could be. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could it was like there was some kind of a power or force within me that made me attack this thing. If you understand, I mean, I was even under the covers in my bed, and I did a move out of that bed. I flew out. I don't have the ability to do that. It all sounds totally crazy, and I've never really spoken about it publicly, but but it happened, and there was a force there, and that was a month later, or a few weeks maybe even. That was when I did my first interview with David Icke.
What?
And that was I started at the top, didn't we? And that led us to create Age of Truth TV as a platform.
What? That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's totally amazing. And I just knew, okay, because I had done other interviews, being kind of an investigative reporter at the same time, but it was mostly interviewing celebrities and people that were doing different great, interesting jobs and stuff like that. And then somebody, gave me the opportunity to do this. And imagine your first interview in this world was with David Icke. So that
you were just born. You got born.
And as you said, you have never spoken of this publicly before. You heard it here first, folks, on Shit Shooting 101. And this leads me to, I always wonder how many people are really having these experiences, because I guarantee 99.9% of people are never disclosing it to anyone, because you're going to have this visceral rejection to it. You're going to have, if you consider yourself a logical, scientifically based mind, you're going to immediately reject it and, find reasons for why it wasn't what you thought you perceived. And you're going to discount yourself. And when people so easily discount this type of phenomena, it's frustrating to me, because even if you look at it scientifically, scientists are saying that we have multiple universes, we have multiple dimensions. Yes. So if that exists,
only they're allowed to say it.
Yes, and if that exists, why can't there be beings, entities, energies that cross over these dimensions and enter our lives in one way or another? I mean, especially when you look historically and mythologically and all these things that tie together to show you that the human race is experiencing this across cultures, across times, across all types of mindsets. How can this be if there's nothing real to it?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think it happens, and I think it happens all the time. And I think there are some that are totally evolved and can cross over like, nothing. It's just part of how, it's part of their frequency, and we're being held down. It's like our pineal gland has been so calcified, and probably, in the ancient civilizations, the ancient Egyptians and Atlantis and all of that, they could probably build these massive structures just by the power of thought, moving objects with the mind. Because I think we have that ability, that everything leads in that direction. That's what they did, and probably also with the help of extraterrestrials and beings that were part of this world back then.
Josh, when you're bringing that up, it just makes me think, well, in the United States in particular, and I don't know what it's like in Denmark or Scandinavia, but all of that has been co-opted by the military. They have really put a huge hold on all of those things, restricting it. They have their own academies where these things are studied. I remember hearing Claire Edwards talk about how, she went to a school, or what was it, where she did coursework and study of becoming a medium, right? A clairvoyant, and a seer, right? And in the United States, those things are just, we're supposed to not admit to them. We're supposed to think they're crazy, but then, huge branches of the military specialize in these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can do remote viewing. They have a whole division in the
exactly.
deep circles, to look into, to listen in on conversations and see what's going on across the borders, and also probably in other dimensions. We still have to think about what's actually going on at CERN, and what is going on in all of these dumps, these underground bases all over America and also in Europe. It's connected throughout the whole world underneath the ground.
And connecting what we were talking about earlier with religion, there was a time period, and it still flows through certain circles, of this religionizing of the extraterrestrial research, where whenever there's a gap, they fill it in with extraterrestrials. And it's become this division where if you either believe that it's nuts and bolts, or you believe it's interdimensional, or you believe it's all government conspiracy and they're the ones operating all this craft, and that there are no aliens, it's just all government craft that we're seeing. And they've worked to divide it so much that, and even when you look at back in the 90s, when I first started looking into all this stuff, so I'm a child of the 90s, and back then, everything was interconnected. If you believed in aliens, then you also believed that your government was corrupt. And then so you looked in cover-ups, you looked in false flag operations. It was all one amalgamation. But now it's so splintered and fractured into all these different areas where nobody is collaborating with one another. And as we said before, it all goes together. They never
actually did. And they never actually did. Sorry to interrupt you here.
What? They never actually did what?
They never really collaborated. I mean, since I started in 2005, I ventured out to find people I could connect with and different groups, but they were all, divided into different groups. And
that's what I was saying. In the 90s, it was this amalgamation, because everybody I spoke with, if you believed in one thing, you were willing and open to listen to all these other different theories and areas of research of conspiracy.
So you're too young to remember 9/11 then, huh?
No. I'm saying by a child of the night. I wasn't born in the 90s. I was just I was entering my adolescence in the 90s.
Yeah.
All right. So you remember the 90s. You were a child and grew up in the 90s.
I should say I was a teenager of the 90s is what I should say.
You were a teenager in the 90s, Josh?
Yeah.
How old were you in the 90s? Come on.
Oh,
we don't have to go there.
Okay.
Okay.
I love it when it becomes very personal and fun. We should laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we
should.
More
than we do.
Mm-hmm.
But my point was, it's kind of frustrating to me to where if you believe that the government is creating these psyops to either make you believe it's aliens or to make you believe it's not aliens. If you're in either one of those camps or a third camp, if you're believing there's some sort of psyop going on in this area, you should be willing to listen to Agenda 21, and you should be willing to listen to all these other theories, and they just won't. They think that you're the kook.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. I ask a lot of people those questions. This is the exact question I'm asking a lot of people. Could the whole alien idea, I mean, the ET UFO field, the existence of aliens and UFOs, be one major government psyop and a lie for control or even for entertainment purposes, Hegelian dialectic? But then again, some people have seen crafts, but could they be military? Some people have been, operated on by aliens, abducted by aliens, and they've seen them. But could that also be false memory syndrome? Could that also be government, military people doing that? I mean, it's a very, very confusing area. But
to me, the answer is both, and that's what makes it so complex.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
divided.
I do. I've come to the same conclusion. I don't think we disagree.
Right.
Lucas, I was wondering, in Denmark, can you speak about Agenda 2130 openly without being considered a total nut job? Is that available information?
No.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's the same thing. The world is connected now. It's the same thing all over. And in Denmark, they are, as I said before, very, very comfortable. and they don't like things that are inconvenient, and they love having a nice, quiet, good time. And they don't want to think too much about what is really going on in the world, because why should they? The evening news are telling them what they should believe, and they do that. And to talk about, but the interesting thing in the regional offices here, what do you say? The commune? What do you call that? The different offices in different regions. Why can't I remember the
Council?
name of it? Yeah, the local council. Let's call them the local councils. Yes,
let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do have documents, and I've even seen them where they talk about Agenda 21, and they talk about it as a new wonderful, Agenda 21 and the smart cities that they've created here now, and the Green Deal. Oh, they love green
Behind
sustainability
the green mask.
Exactly, with Rosa
Right?
Corey,
Yes.
a dear friend who are so missed. I love
Oh
her
my goodness.
very much.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, and that exactly, and people should really read Rosa Corey's book, Behind the Green Mask.
Oh, they should. Yes.
Because it's you get a lot of information, and she was speaking with clarity as well, and was a wonderful lady. I had a wonderful time when I was when I was the host of the Open Mind Conference in Denmark in 2013. No, that was the year before, in 2013. She was here as a speaker, and I got to know her quite well and had a good time with her. We connected very, very nicely. Yeah, it was good.
So those documents are available in your regional governmental offices, you're saying?
Yeah, well, it's even I've seen it even mentioned by Agenda 21, it says.
Right.
I've seen that, but I don't know if it's a specifically Danish thing that they talk about it as being a wonderful thing, and the climate change, all of those things that are connected with the whole UN agenda there. But it's happening, and they've just built a whole smart city here in Copenhagen. Actually,
really?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And they roll out 5G, and so everything is connected. Now you can even call your refrigerator or your oven and say, heat up, I'll be back in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Something, I mean, in that smart city they have and then they have little greenhouses on the top. So people believe it, and there are maybe some good things. You didn't pollute the air, but yet they pollute the air with the chemtrails and everything else, and the water we drink with.
Well, they're destroying the air, so they're.
Yeah, I know, which is also, by the way, part of that whole mind control, cognitive dissonance frequency level that everybody is on, because we're breathing that air, and it's destroying our pineal gland even further, and everything else, creating cancer and these diseases.
Do you have fluoride in the water there? Is that part of
not
dumbing down?
Not in the same way that you have in America, I think.
Really?
But we've just done a lot of testing. I have a couple of good friends, and we'll probably do a show about it soon, with a totally clear water, and we've taken samples of different tap water in Copenhagen, which is the capital, and other towns here. And with that special device that they have for that, they can actually see what's in it, and you can see how the water changes and becomes like really dirty, and oh my God, you would never want to drink it. We filmed it as well. So we're getting totally clean water now. There's this whole device for that as well, but that's another story. But I think we're going to do a show about it at some point.
Yeah, I don't even want to test the water that I drink, because then I'll just be exclusively drinking vodka.
Yes, it looks the same. It looks the same. So
right.
The vodka is cleaner, no doubt. Yeah.
So is gin.
So I had one more extraterrestrial question here. Do you believe the Galactic Federation is real? And if so, might they be preparing a great reset of their own for the planet Earth?
Yeah, that's a good question. I love it. I would ask the same kind of question, and I have to many of the people that really know a lot about the Galactic Federation of Light. Um, you know what? The reason why I haven't done a lot of, I've been asked a lot to come on other people's shows, and I haven't really done a lot of interviews because I always wanted to stay a little bit neutral when I'm the one, asking questions and being the investigative reporter. And unlike a lot of speakers in this field who are also investigative reporters, I've never really wanted to be a public speaker until all of what happened here in the last 2 years. I think it's time to come out and talk about it. But, I've always, as I said before, my whole thing is about being open-minded, open-hearted, and I am open to any otherworldly wild claim and possibility. But I'm always skeptical. I'm always critical. I always ask raw questions in a way to all of that, because as long as you haven't really seen anything like that yourself or any clear evidence of it, then you have to tap into the energy. And I do that as well. And parts of me resonate with that idea that there is a galactic federation. I mean, if there are many, many, many different alien races and types, and maybe as many as, an infinite number of different alien races, perhaps, then and they are really evolved, then maybe they do have this council. But wouldn't it be nice if they would help planet Earth then quite soon to make it a better place? That would be interesting. But then again, they also say it's like a playground for evolving races and species, and it's almost, Earth is also a testing ground, they say. I mean, I don't have an answer. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not real. I'm always, as I said earlier, I'm always fascinated with those people who have the answer to say, yes, it's real, and they do this and they do that, and those aliens are blue and those are green, and I'm totally open for it. I love to talk about it. I love to research it. Apparently, a lot of people have seen the same types, and they don't know each other. So that's also, when you put all of those things together, maybe it is true, but I don't have the answer for that, and therefore I can't lecture on it.
I spoke with Mary Rodwell a while back. She's known as the Alien Lady, and she interviews a lot of these star children. And she spoke to me about how these star children, many of them spoke of a great reset, but they spoke of it as an extraterrestrial influenced great reset. And I also spoke with Denise Stoner, who has had alien abductions her entire life from childhood and is still having these abductions. And she speaks of the Galactic Federation as a purely benevolent force. So it's a place to take hope. I don't know how I feel about it entirely. I think, as you said, we probably are filled with a universe of life, and there's probably infinite life forms that are highly evolved and so far beyond our evolution to why wouldn't there be coalitions and federations? Or I think Galactic Federation, it's a cheesy term that maybe it's used to throw you off the scent because it sounds so scripted, like so science fiction-y, but
But supposedly we were hijacked by the reptilians, the Dracos, huh?
Right.
The Draconians, and maybe these insectoids they talk about as well.
Like the mantids.
And that certainly makes sense when you see the state of the world, huh? And all of this terror and madness, famine, and what have you. But I mean, it's a fascinating thought. I don't have a clear answer to it, but I do know that many do, and I've spoken to many people about that, and I'd love to speak to more people that may have other things to bring into bring to the table about the Galactic Federation. My question is always, when do we see a change for the better?
Right.
When will the benevolent ETs help planet Earth? Then they are very welcome right now, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, and in that case, we're empowered to be the creative force that makes the decision to occupy our sovereignty and our the health and well-being of our planet and our species, right? And then if they join us, then all the power to us and them, right?
I think they want us to wake up. And I think that's the whole game, because we are in a spiritual war. It's an energy battle about frequency control. And, frequencies and energies are more powerful than anything that can manifest in physical form on this three-dimensional plane, because anything so-called physical is a manifestation of energies and frequencies. And as I was talked about before, atoms have no solidity. So it's a war on empathy as well. And it's a war on health. But as soon as we wake up, as soon as we use that word I said, which I love, clarity, also within ourselves, wake up to the love frequency, jump on the truth frequency, then I think we can experience a shift of perception, a shift in whatever will manifest, because the law of attraction is everything. It really is. That's not a new age idea. It's frequencies. So I think it is about us waking up and getting and reset this strange world in a different way, not the elite people, the elitists resetting our world, but us resetting it.
Yes.
So
I think that's a really important point that, when we think of frequencies, we think of it as being these waves out there in the ether, but there's the frequencies within us, within our own minds and our own hearts, the love frequency, the frequency of thought. And it's not only what you put out into the world that manifests, but it's also the way that they use their magic and sorcery to influence the frequencies within the self that controls the world. And you see it, coming back to the whole ET thing, the Saturnian worship, they're influencing with this Saturnian magic, which is it's very intriguing to me, the way that they seem to be so focused on Saturn right now. And there's all this evidence around Saturn that
They've always been.
Yeah, that's true. But it seems like they're throwing it in our faces right now. I mean, you look at music videos, you look at commercials. I see it on billboards. It's in every corporate logo. Just Saturn, Saturn, Saturn. Yeah. You're right. They have always been.
Yes, exactly. It's cube symbolism. I don't know if you've ever seen that picture of the cube. There is a cube standing in selected places in the world. One in New York and one in Mexico.
Just recently.
You mean the Golden Cube in Central Park?
Yeah.
I think maybe that. And we have one here in Denmark, which is interesting. A lot of places in Europe, they don't have one. But in Denmark, they do have one cube standing in one of the smaller towns. And it's always depicted alongside the other ones that we see. And interesting enough, also the cube of Mecca, inside, that's also Saturnian.
Oh, definitely.
And everybody walking in that one direction. All of these Muslims walking around that cube in that one direction. That's the symbolism for the rings of Saturn.
Definitely.
And the little cube in front of the Jewish people, that they like a little hat on the
forehead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also the cube. The cube is everywhere. It's
everywhere.
With the hexagon thing,
Yeah.
Hexagram, hex, witchcraft, everything that also Jordan Maxwell and many other people have talked about. But he certainly has been a great inspiration. We will have the second tribute show out for him in a few days.
Great.
Yeah, so you can look forward to that.
With Carrie Cassidy as well, or is that a different interview?
No, that's different speakers. That's Leo Sagami.
Oh, great.
and Brian Vecchio. Brian Vecchio, I don't know if you know who he is. We've never had him on the show before, but he housed Jordan and took care of Jordan for the last few years. So he was with him. He was like a caretaker and best friend. And they also gave us some very interesting videos, private videos of some from his last days. So it's interesting, but that's it's a personal tribute that I think is important to honor those people who may be controversial to some, but they certainly they've been a great influence on all of us that came later on. Huh?
Yeah, that's great what you're doing. And I would like to encourage my listeners, if you don't know who Jordan Maxwell is, if you have a foggy recollection or whatever, please go check out or recheck out the material that he's put out there. There's a ton of it, and it's all so invaluable. It will change the way you perceive everything in this world and in your life, and coming from a beautiful soul.
Yes, and I also want to encourage people to see our interview.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, of course.
Interview. Yeah.
Because that we did on Age of Truth TV, because we went actually to Boulder in Colorado to meet up with him at his house there, and where he lived for a while when he was doing Gaia. He was involved with Gaia TV, and it was just wonderful to spend that whole day with him, and having spoken to him also privately, but also to be in his presence for that day, because we did get to talk a lot about other things that he wouldn't talk about on the air. So, but I think we covered a lot in our show, and it's become a huge success on our channel. So before the shadow banning, the ghosting, and the censorship, it became a huge hit. So, I just hope that we will stay on, forever, because my God, we've had a lot of videos removed from our channel and strikes and what have you. It's absolute madness.
Are you supported at all by your government or the people of Denmark? Do you have a good following there, or is it pretty international?
Of course we're not supported.
Really? Okay.
Of course not. Are you kidding me? How would they support that? No, we're having constantly videos removed. I mean, everything we talk about in regards to all the doctors, all the big speakers that were revealing anything from the get-go. Right. All of those videos were removed, basically. You cannot talk about anything. Yeah, but it's on our website, which is our home, which is ageoftruth.tv. I just want to plug our website so you can see our library there. Did
your government sign a deal the way Israel did to sign your people over as a tribe? Really?
Yeah, our top feminist female prime minister, she went to Israel and was seen with Netanyahu and all those people made up. Yeah. Of course, we are in the eye of this. Denmark is part of the whole pyramid structure, kind of at the top, but not at the top, because we are being used as a testing ground.
So you're part of the Five Eyes.
I would suggest that, because why is it always happening here first, or we are being, we're also being protected in a way, which is also interesting. Denmark is also being protected, kind of. I remember even Hillary Clinton, believe it or not, who was here years ago. She even said, oh, yeah, well, Denmark is kind of protected. We all want Denmark to be a great example for the rest of the world. I mean, everything she said in that speech was kind of, revealing that we are being used, but we are in the pocket of the United States, it's all.
Yeah. So have they done, or in Sweden, they're doing the implant, right, of the chip?
Yeah, well, they did that years ago. Some people ran voluntarily and said, "Oh, please put a chip in," and in
Denmark as well. Then?
And now some men are breastfeeding in Sweden. I mean, come on, There's no end to the madness of what is going on at the moment. And I mean, we are the top feminist country as well, which is not about femininity, which is more about toxic masculinity, if you will. It's the opposite. Everything is the reversed way, you know, and all the major, you know, the heads of states here are all women. In Norway, in Denmark, in Sweden, and also, you know, the top, you know, we have many parties where in America you have several, but we always talk about the Democrats and the Republicans. But in Denmark, we have about 10 or 11 different rather big political parties that people can vote for. And many of them, they have female, let's say, leaders on the party leaders, whatever you call it. So there's a lot of equality here. Yet they speak about Denmark, and that's the implementation through the media that men are horrible and they are, you know, there's no equality, and the whole Me Too thing is very, very big. People coming out talking about things that happened 30 years ago or 20 years ago. And, you know, it's also, you know, a way to divide the sexes instead of uniting us, you know, so that men and women can live happily together and not being divided. I mean, there are more singles in Denmark statistically than anywhere in the world.
What?
Yeah, I mean, we're a small country, but statistically, in terms of, you know, in compared to how many people we are, there are more singles in our country than anywhere else.
Oh.
Why didn't anybody tell me back when I was single?
Well, you're gonna have a field day here in Denmark.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unfulfilled people here, Josh.
Oh
Right.
my goodness.
Well, it's too late for me. The old ball and chain.
Yeah, you got lucky over there, so you shouldn't talk about it.
Well, are you married?
Engaged.
Yeah.
Engaged. Okay. That's good. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, a very weird, awkward time to be engaged with the world in turmoil.
Yeah, I know. And also people, you know, I know a lot of people who just had babies here.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what they were doing when they didn't have anything else to do during lockdown.
Yeah, it's like blackout babies. Yeah.
Imagine growing up in this world right now. Isn't that, you would have to think twice, wouldn't you?
Oh, I definitely am. My partner and I definitely are thinking twice.
Yeah,
well, they're saying that the IQ is dropping rapidly because of all the exposure to the Wi-Fi and the glyphosates and all of these. And so are you in a remote area, or are you in the city directly?
No, I'm in the capital in Copenhagen.
Oh, you are, my God.
Not too far from the center, actually. So, but you know, it's actually a beautiful country when everything is okay, but of course nothing is really okay. It's all an illusion, and it's all part of this monetary slave system that we're all part of. I just don't think we're too different. We're not that different. I lived in America also for on and off for a while. So
where were you?
I was in New York and Los Angeles.
Okay, well, the two pockets.
Exactly. I've been around the country and been to small towns and stuff, but you know, I basically know the bigger cities. Yeah. I have to say, but I haven't. I want to go back whenever we can, but at the moment it's not possible to travel and to go on a plane. But I think they're kind of opening up right now, but I don't know exactly how it works. I have no plans of that nature right now before I know that everything will work. Right now, there's this very delightful opening, and everything is so happy. And even those people that were so fearful of each other, not even visiting their grandmother at the nursing home, who were afraid of being together, they're now inviting Ukrainian refugees into their home.
Ukrainians, I mean, gosh.
I mean, you know, nothing makes sense. It's an absolute, it's theater. It's all of this is theater, and you can't, it's unbelievable. It's very interesting. Just have to distance yourself a little bit from it and look at it more as an observer, especially when you're doing this work, when you have to do a lot of research, you talk to a lot of people. And that's what I try to do. And then I try to have a lot of fun with a lot of wonderful people. And I think I will encourage everybody also listening to this to collect people in your lives where the frequency is right, where you can have a great time, connect with them, have fun with them, love more than you've ever loved if you can, not just physically, that too, but also try and go on that frequency level of joy, because the rest is an illusion. We have to find our way in all of this and to stand in our truth and to be with a lot of people that are on the same wavelength. You don't have to be enlightened or, let's say, aware of what is going on in the world in order to be on the same wavelength. We also know a lot of people that are in the truth community. You may not be very connected to them because, it's all about being on the same wavelength, right?
So then you're associating with people openly. Are people becoming very exclusive in that way?
I connect with people that I love, and there are people I don't talk about these things with. I mean, we don't discuss these things, but most of the people around me and my family, they are and close friends. They are, of course, on the same, as we say, wavelength.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean.
I think I lost my entire family.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God, that's also terrible. I mean, if people do that, I can't even. I've heard so many stories, and it's really hurtful.
Yeah, devastating.
It's so terrible, and I mean, I didn't really lose anybody really. Maybe in people quite removed or in the showbiz or whatever, but most of them also in that field where I work, it's fine. I mean, I've been lucky. Maybe it's because I've been in this game for such a long time. So I'm an intuitive. So I use that when I connect with people, and I've done this for a long time. It's not new to me. I was just suddenly we're just all in it.
Yeah, it wasn't new to me either. It's just the programming or the pressure or the poverty. I don't know what it is that.
I mean, they do win if we allow them to separate us, don't they?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, maybe there's a job to be done there, maybe to reconnect with some that are not worth it, not worth losing. Some people are worth losing. I think we've also had time to think and reflect what is important, who is important, what kind of energy in my life and your life is important. And that's what we should focus on. There's been a reset going on there as well, which has been not all that bad, I think.
Yeah.
And, this is a war of attrition, and we're 2 years into this, and I see so many people getting worn down because of the focus you're talking about. But I think sometimes we need to release focus and then come back to it stronger. Release focus and then come back to it stronger. But because like what we're talking about now, it's fatiguing to me. It's exhausting. And so what I do personally is I'll shut it down and then come back to it, or I'll interject my research with something that's a little bit more fun. So I'm going to do that right now with this question, if you don't mind me changing topics out of nowhere. We know the account of Admiral Byrd, the Nazis' peculiar expedition to Antarctica, Rothschild Island in Antarctica, and the master class's obsession with this seemingly uninhabitable location. So what is your perspective on the mysteries of Antarctica and the possibility of a hollow Earth?
I love the topic, and I've been talking about it a lot on our show. And I do believe Admiral Byrd went in through that hole in the North Pole, right? Not on Antarctica.
Oh,
Huh?
yeah, that's my mistake.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of confusion. No, but I understand that because there's a lot of confusion on that. I mean, we know about the Nazi bases on Antarctica and all of those things there, that the bases and all of that. But I do think that it was on the North Pole. If
I think you're right. I think you're right.
He went into this hole and that big hole in the ground, supposedly. I mean, it's a huge topic. It's a fascinating one, and it's so is the Earth hollow? Is it round? Is it a globe? Is it a flat Earth with lots of layers? Is Antarctica? Is it like the border with the ice wall going totally around, and all of that? Or is it, as I do believe it was Max Egan on our show that once said that it was both.
Both, yeah.
It's both depending on depending on your perception, again, maybe on your frequency. You know, we talk a lot about frequencies now, but that is really the whole thing. It's perception, understanding. Where are you? How do you see it? With what eyes? How do you understand this? Like what you said before, Josh, about multiple dimensions and parallel dimensions and universes. Maybe there is a round one, maybe there is a flat one. I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, I have never really. It took us a long time, many years to even do a show about flat Earth, because I was once told by somebody in one of these secret societies that revealed to me that soon they will introduce the idea of flat Earth, and that would be part of dividing the truth movement.
I've always said that it was occultically influenced.
Like a CIA Psy-Op. He told me. And then a few years later, it happened. I was told the same thing about Trump. Now they're going to put him in that position, and then he's going to divide the truth movement. The growing, massively Psy-Op, the same thing. So what have we really seen, come into fruition or something with Trump? I mean, there's so much speculation. Did he save all of those children from the dumps? Did he do all of the things that a lot of people say he did? Or was he part of this divide and conquer strategy? And they're always clever. The same thing with the Ukrainian crisis here. According to many sources, Putin is not a Freemason and is against the implementation and progression of the New World Order.
He's helping it.
But on the other hand, well, they do say that the Russian bank is not owned by the Rothschild family.
Okay.
And they don't have a centralized banking system in the same way that we do in our part of the world, where it's owned by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Collins family or whatever. But so is Putin then truly against the New World Order takeover and the Great Reset? Or is he just another puppet playing his part to divide and conquer?
I lean towards the latter.
It seems like theater of war takes away the attention from the full spectrum dominance and the infiltration on the nanoscale.
Exactly, which is what we see is happening massively now. Yeah,
right.
The whole Russian-Ukrainian thing, it either serves two purposes. One, to make half the people believe that Russia is the absolute enemy, or the other half the people to make Russia seem as the absolute savior. And neither is true, in my opinion, in my estimation.
This is part of the clever chess game in our matrix that's been going on for a long time, done by these puppeteers. My God, you must hand it to them. They are clever, right?
Well, especially when through these religious tactics of the exoteric and the esoteric, where you keep the true information from the masses, so it becomes easier to use that trickery and sorcery and black magic against us.
Yeah, step by step.
The crafting of the fabric of reality.
Exactly. I mean, you just take it a little step at a time. Well, actually, it's been major steps in the past couple of years. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, in the
Unbelievable.
past, it took time, and then people got used to that, and then they were more receptible to new restrictions and law changes and everything. But I mean, now they're really working fast, huh?
Oh
Oh,
yeah, it's
indeed.
lightning speed right now. That's definitely, and we're 20 years behind, I think, in really understanding what they are doing.
Yeah,
Or
Operation Warp
more.
Speed isn't just about the stabs. It's warp
Oh, what do
speed
you
of
mean?
everything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And they're in a hurry. They have to hurry because people are waking up. And
Well,
more could possibly wake up and maybe will wake up. But I don't think we can do much more to wake more people up. They have had the possibility to understand what is going on. I mean, because it has divided people so much, and families, sadly, to see and to hear happening all over. But they did have a lot of people have had access to information about what is happening because that it's been there, so it's a choice now, isn't it?
yeah,
I still don't think so. I'm sorry. I totally hear you, but I feel like there's just these unbelievable psychological operations that really have people bound and tied and gagged, and it's just terrifying to me what they've done to people.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's incredible.
Well, programs can be deprogrammed. Spells can be broken. So I think that they're building a house of cards and they see the natural winds of change, so they have to build it quick before those winds come storming in. I think there's a very clear reason why they're pushing it so fast. Because they worked so gradually for all those generations, and now it's time to push. And when you push, you got to go all in, or it's going to collapse. That's where I stand on as a hopeful being. I may be wrong, but so wrapping up here, having tackled so much information that the average mind dare not explore, what is your closing message to my listeners?
I believe in stand in your own truth and play the game in your own way. Be part of the game. Don't be too don't let yourself be captured by the fear that they want you to be captured by. Open the mind and the heart to connect with a lot of people. There was one researcher on my show, I don't remember who it was, but it was a wonderful statement, who said, love those you love even more. And I like that quote because that's also what I do. I do believe I mean, those of us who are working in the field tirelessly all the time to, talk about these things publicly, we do our bit. If you don't do that, you can talk to people, try and wake them up if you can. But basically, work on yourself and your own demons. Do the shadow work. Try, if you can, to get rid of the addictions that we all have in one way or the other. And, be as good a person as you can and have a lot of fun. I mean, that's what I really feel. Laughter is so important. And that's what I said, love and laughter, connecting with the right people. Be brave enough to connect with people, go out. And I know there are some introverts that maybe find it difficult to connect with people, but I think it's on that level I want to, where my message is for people, because I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know what the end result will be. I hope there's going to be an intervention. I hope it's going to change for the better. I believe, and I can say my core, I know it will change for the better. But will it happen in the next coming years or in our lifetime? I don't know. But I do know that law of attraction is real and energy is real. We've talked about that all the time. So we must focus our energy on something good. But if you are a person full of anger all the time, angry about the system, angry about everything, that doesn't mean you should be passive and not go for it and notice of liability and what go to protests, even though, what has it really changed? But I mean, we should still do all of that, but do connect with people, have fun, and don't let yourself be taken over by the fear. Liberate yourself. View things with clarity, as I said. That is my best message, really. I could probably talk even longer about that, but let's break the spell, the mind control spell, the dark occult spell that has captured the minds. At least we should be a good example to ourselves and the people that we love. That's the best way I can explain it right now.
Beautiful, Lucas. Thank you.
Me, myself, I've broken the spell of the idea that the North Pole is the North Pole. I say, why can't it not be Antarctica? I'm joking. I'm going back and trying to rescue myself from my own mistake.
Make up for yeah.
It could be. Everything is upside down anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Flipping.
Upside down, inside out. Any plugs, products, promotions? How can my listeners find you?
Yes. Our platform is Age of Truth TV. And our website, our home is ageoftruth.tv, where you will find our library and also all of, or most, sadly not all, some are totally lost, but most of our library from the past 11 years. We are on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel to help us still be there and grow. We are also on BitChute and on Brighteon and Age of Truth TV. We have the most wonderful viewers and people watching us, and it's a wonderful family there, and I'm so grateful. I can't even express how thrilling and wonderful, rewarding it is to have that audience, because that does keep us going and make me go on and on, because we get some beautiful energy there. So thank you for making me, allowing me to pluck our platform, and I hope I'll see a lot of people there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody.
Welcome here, yeah.
I encourage everybody to check that out. There's a lot of great stuff there, a lot of absolute fascinating stuff to behold. So, Lucas, I thank you greatly. This has been fascinating. It's been really enjoyable. So keep doing what you do. Keep it weird, but keep it real, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Kiki. It's been wonderful getting to know you and to talk to you, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I hope I was able to provide you with anything worthwhile.
Definitely.
You're
absolutely.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much.
Hey, you take care.
Thank you. Thank you, and you too.
Bye-bye.
What is matter without mind? What is mind without matter? If you never mind, it never mattered. For it is all a mental state molded by a material manifestation. What it boils down to is that mind over matter is but a matter of mind, and herein lies the most fundamental question ever asked. What is real? Is reality real? Can we ever really know? Perhaps not, but we can certainly question, analyze, study, research, and examine our way to a structure of belief. Within this belief may be housed the principles of logic, reason, intellect, and inherent intelligence, wisdom, and instinct. Within this knowledge may be stored the powers of intuition. Within this intuition is encoded the nexus of the physical, the metaphysical, the reality, the illusion, the mind, the matter. In the end, what is a matter of fact to a mind of fiction? If you wouldn't mind, I ask, as a matter of existential inquisition, that you re-examine your reality. When all the smoke clears and you see the mirrors reflecting, what is real? Is it possible that everything you thought you knew was some lifelong trickery of perception? Isn't this possibility enough of a reason to rethink? Why not ask? Why not ask again? Rethink everything you think you know, for one should not think they know if they do not know to think. And rethink again and again and again. Rethink. Love, peace, happiness. Signing off. Deuces.